Good afternoon, I'm Rob with Bunzel Cleaning and Hygiene, and this afternoon I'm here, we're going to go through the Clorox 360 program. I'll start with the machine and then go through the electrostatic process, talk about the chemistry. So beginning with the machine, what we have here is 35 psi compressors. The bulk of this is the body. You'll see on the side here a peristaltic pump, that's delivering the chemistry, and here's our electrical source. With the Clorox 360 program, this is plug-in, so we're delivering 5 times the charge density of the competitive programs. 25-foot cord here. If you require more distance, you can run 12 3-gauge for another 100 feet, so 125 feet. The chemistry, the electrical line, and the air line are combining in here. Chemistry and the air form into particles in here, and are then electrically negatively charged. While I've got this cap on, this is an area of maintenance for you, so a damp cloth, wipe the outside, wipe the inside, be careful of the electrode, you don't need to be cleaning that. It's this little black nozzle, which is where the chemistry and the air combine. And here we're electrically charging, negatively charging it. There's a holder up the front here. Our handle's extendable. On-off switch on the back. When that on-off switch is on, you'll have a light on the gun. The trigger, once you depress it, it stays on, and then you depress it to stop it again. Those couple of maintenance features that I mentioned there. So on this, some of the older machines, there's a filter, an air filter, which is replaceable every 1,000 hours if you happen to have one of those. I don't see one on here. This is the latest model. So we will clean in here. This is our important piece of this machine. I'll just turn this off. So this is what we've got to be very careful, because the replacement part of all of this is significant. So in order to look after the lines and the inside of everything, the requirement is to purge. So you purge with air by taking off the cap here, moving that around so you can see me do that. So take this cap off and purge with air. Takes 30 seconds for that air to run through the system. After every time you use it, you should purge that air. What I like to do is these jugs have a proprietary tip in them. When I've got an empty jug, I'll relabel that water and flush with water once a week. That way you're looking after your lines and looking after your gun. Other than that, as I said earlier, just wipe around the outside. The other areas where you could potentially require some maintenance is, so we've got a peristaltic pump here, so those peristaltic tubes will wear eventually. This snaps on, snaps off. So it's a part that we would have in in stock or can easily and quickly get for you. These caps we've had a couple of issues with where a customer might potentially knock the tip off, and so we're holding some of those caps just in case, so don't panic. If that happens, we can get you another cap. And normally when I'm doing my WebEx at this point I say, are there any other questions? So I'm going to ask that question of myself. And the question that I tend to get is the weight. So 44 pounds is the weight of the unit. 60 pounds once we've got the chemical on board. When you're handling it, there's a temptation to handle from this handle, but put it up and down from the frame. Okay, in the absence of being able to ask if there are any more questions, we'll go to the process. The electrostatic part of the program. But once the chemistry is combined, the attraction of this is, as I said, it's 5 times the charge density of competing units. So there's very much a process and a program for application. Firstly, you can cover 18,000 square feet in an hour. And when we're talking in terms of 18,000 square feet, that would be contactable surface. So normally you would not disinfect above sort of 8 or 9 feet. So if we're in a washroom area, for example, the top of those stalls, you should definitely be disinfected because people will handle that area. We work in a waving pattern. So I go top to bottom, side to side. What I've done here is put on a jug of water for demonstration effect. So I don't know, Dave, if I was pointing this up to the ceiling, can we see it happen?
Sure.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is just going to purge it for a second because I have that on. If you're purging, just purge into a corner. And you figure if we go right up there, you'll see it head to the ceiling there? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So what you're looking for here, and if we were together right now, I would be letting you do this so that you can, A, get an idea of the distance, you can stay away from it, and also you'll see that there's nothing hanging in the air. And the water doesn't charge as well as the chemistry, but it still charges well enough. You'll see it head straight to that light and nothing really hanging in the air. So if you can see that, it goes up and around. That's the electrostatic, that's the power of what we've got here. So that gives us a few indicators as to what this program is. And again, I say you start from the back of the room and work out. The other important factor there is that ventilation is actually your friend for the most part. You're not worried about air movement, you want air movement. If we're windows open and a gale force, it might affect it, but this charge is stronger than gravity. So it's going to go to the surface. The other thing is you see how far away I was from that, and that is very important because we have to give the chemistry a chance to wrap around, and we move ourselves away from a sort of a pressure washing type of a scenario to this very sort of sensitive application, because what we're looking for at the end of it is just a dewy amount of chemical on the surface. This clock total 360 has a 2-minute kill time. So it's on the Canada COVID approved list with a 2-minute kill time for human coronavirus, which is, is our concern at the moment. It will be the same for Norwalk. We do have a separate chemistry, which I'll go into afterwards, which will cover us for C. diff. So the reason I go to that 2 minutes is because that's the dry time. So we've got a 2-minute dry time, no rinse. That's really important. We used to think in terms of a quat being a 10-minute dwell time and a potable water rinse. Clorox have evolved this quat to be a 2-minute kill time, no rinse. Now, if we're in an area where there's a food court, it's a no rinse disinfectant. It's not a no rinse sanitizer. So we would use a potable water rinse if we were in that food court area where there's food contact. The other area would be if we're in a daycare type environment or a school environment where there are balls or toys, etc., then those would have to be rinsed. And if we are in those environments, which all the environments are, people's personal, so if it's desks and we're in an office environment and they have their their lunch container or their coffee cup or water, those need to be moved out before we're disinfecting. So I'll just demonstrate that motion again so that you can see. I'm very careful. These move around quite a bit, which is why I'm hanging on to it. They're small enough that when I'm transporting it in the car, for example, I just put it behind the passenger's side seat. But be aware of that. You want to be very careful with that. And as I said, you do not want to be, you really want to look after this. You do not want anything getting broken. So, we're 18,000 square feet of contactable surface in an hour. We're moving from side to side. We move from back of the area out the door. So if we're in a large washroom area, we start at the back. I usually go so I'll do the toilet area and then I'll go inside to get the door, because you've got to be somewhat, or the back of the door, somewhat directional. We can't expect it to go through the top of here and under here. So if I'm doing a chair, for example, I would wave like this and then I'd crouch to make sure you're giving it a chance. But again, you want to be this far away. So if I was doing this, we'll pretend that's a wheelchair. I'll take my PPE away. I will be standing back here. We're doing this wall area. I'd be as far away as this. Now the other thing with that is it's immediate re-entry. So, practically and for common sense, and because we've got a 2-minute dwell time, what I advocate is leave those closed for cleaning signs up for 5 minutes. And then you can re-enter. Again, because it's electrostatically charged, it's not hanging in the air. So it has contacted the surfaces, it has wrapped around the surface. What we do, and I don't think I can do it right here, right now, I'd love to, but for example, if I'm doing a demonstration with a customer, which lately we haven't been able to do to the same degree, I would put fluorescent dye. So instead of running the chemistry, I'd take this off and put fluorescent dye here and purge it and run fluorescent dye. Then I get a UV light. So I put that over a toilet area, for example, for 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds. Wave it over the toilet seat area, standing back that 6 to 8 feet, turn the light off. I would have put a couple of pieces of painter's tape around the side of the bowl or underneath the bowl so that it's a hard to contact area. And then you can see at that point, when you put the UV light on in the dark, you can see how that is wrapped completely around all the fixtures. And that in a way is the best training exercise and the best aha moment as to understanding, A, I stood that far away, and that's what I did. It took me 2 seconds and effectively completely disinfected that toilet area. I had the toilet seat standing up and it wrapped around the back of it. Those are the pictures that you need in your mind for this. Okay, so we have two chemistries that we use for the same. That is not one of them, that's my water. The Clorox T360 is a quat. So despite our Clorox name, this is a quat. So it's safe. I can give you a compatibility chart of all the surfaces, but this is safe on soft surfaces, carpet, etc. And there we consider it a sanitizer rather than a disinfectant, because you can't effectively pre-clean that area the same way as you can on a hard surface. Now, the PPE for using the Clorox T360 is goggles, N95 mask, and gloves. So the operator would be using those. If we're in, let's say, a long-term care environment in the sitting or the dining area, you would expect that area to be closed or off limits for that 5 minutes or so that you were going to do the application. And anybody else engaged should, this, as with any disinfectant, we want everybody to be careful with their health during the application process. This will cover you. That's what you need. I know they're hard to get. If you need to go up one and go pancake filter or something, that's okay, but don't use less than an N95. The other chemistry, which has so just come out that I don't have a jug in my hand, is called Spore Defense. Now that's a specially formulated, we just released it, or Clorox just released it within the last, beginning of June, so a month and a half. They formulated that sodium hypochlorite, bleach 0.25%, with a low odor and a capability of a 5-minute dwell time for C. diff. So this is a big game changer for us in healthcare and for all of you in healthcare. The application process I was showing there is going to allow for that 2-minute kill. So if we are protecting ourselves, if there's an outbreak of C. diff or concern around C. diff, then you have to use a layering process in order to get that 5-minute dwell. So you would cover over in order to get 5 minutes. You'll find that the reason that I put this there as a wheelchair is because it's complicated surfaces that are the most hard to disinfect, spray and wipe. In fact, it's impossible. With this, you're going to cover 50% more surface. So 50% of the surface that you would have covered, you'll cover 50% more doing it electrostatically because of that wraparound. And because of that time involved, you're going to do that in a quarter of the time. So you're going to do double the job in a quarter of the time. And it's these complex surfaces that we're all dealing with, whether it's simple as a chair, and every time you spray and wipe a chair and wipe it down, do you get underneath the seat of the chair? Rarely. Where does somebody pick the chair up to move it around? Under the seat of the chair. So This will do a job. The beauty of this is when you leave that area, you know you've disinfected. And you're thinking in terms of when you're comparing to spray and wipe, or when you're comparing to any other equipment that is disinfecting, you know you've disinfected. That's why this is a program. You've got the electrostatic part of the program, and you have the chemistry, 2 different chemistries of the program. These have been tested. The efficacy has been tested through the electrostatic. We have independent swab tests showing results that we can send. I'm going to ask you guys if there's any questions again, all you people, which of course there aren't. And so, Dave, do you have any thoughts as to anything I could have missed there? Another place I should go?
No, I think you covered everything really well.
Great. Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'm going to sign off, and then, you know, if I do a webinar, I have a little sign-off slide at the end thanking everybody. So firstly, I'll thank you all. And on that slide, just to pique our interest, is Dave is our key category executive for equipment, and I cover innovation and warewash and laundry and a few things. So here, just to pique your interest for another webinar, is a continuous tile system called PeakServe, which we would love to show you. And I won't go into detail because that's not why you're here. Also from Torque is a Smart One tissue system. Very unique, center pull, know where to put your hands, hygienic. And the other piece that I'd love to touch on right now is very important in today's environment as a validation tool is our Wanda Next program. We have a Wanda Next app, we have a Wanda Next tablet, and be really happy to work with you with that as well. I usually we don't have an IMOP, we can sit here right now. In the absence of an IMOP, that's very much Dave's world, but not mine. We do have an icon over there. So that's my sign off. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate you coming along. And any questions, if you need to fire them at me, rob.chapman@planetclean.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.